Hey guys, Erie is here and welcome along to another video. And welcome to a slightly different video. I wanted to do something because Gran Turismo 7 turns 1 year old today. 4th of March 2022 this game came out, and I wanted to kind of have a bit of a relaxed discussion and kind of give a bit of an overview of what I thought has gone well, what has gone badly, and what has really not gone well. And I have written them all here. So I've got 3 categories. I've got 5 things in each of these 3 categories. I've got good, things that have gone well since launch. I've got bad. Now they're quite sport mode biased because that's what I play most of all. And then we've got the 3rd category, the ugly. Now, I'm going to start off with the positive. And excuse me if I keep looking over here because this is where everything's listed out. So let's start. So first things first, the good thing was that they got the game out. Yes, it was slightly delayed, but there was a pandemic, but it wasn't massively delayed and they got the game out. So that is a big tick to start with. And the game that they delivered us, point number 2, is pretty good. You know, it looks amazing. The handling is absolutely great as well. So the game they delivered us for point number 2 is really good, if not a little bit delayed. Now, point 3, dynamic weather and day-night transition. Now, this was heavily publicized during the PlayStation event and all the way in the lead up till launch. And I don't think anybody can knock how amazing and how great that is when they use it. But we'll get to that later on. Point number 4, penultimate point of the good stuff that I wanted to mention in the first year of Gran Turismo 7 is the free updates. Now, there is an argument here that, and quite a few people think this, to be fair. So in one camp, people are happy to get free updates and constant evolution of the game for free. Many other studios, many other games definitely make you pay for these things. Games that I play as well, so I can't stand on my high horse or look down from my ivory tower on that. But the other side of it is some people believe that the game was half-baked at release. So they're releasing it as and when they go. So they almost owe us these free updates. But regardless, they are free. And for point number 4, I think the free updates is a good thing because there's plenty of other routes they can go down. Again, we're going to talk about that later on. But most of all, and most importantly, I should say, they are free. And the final point, the 5th point of the 5 good things that I think have happened in the past year of Gran Turismo being around, is VR. Now, this is really recent. And I haven't done as much content on it as I should have done, but that's more kind of time permitting. I'm telling you, if I didn't do this for a job and I just had a hobby of sim racing, which goes away when your hobby becomes a job, I would 100% be using VR as long as I could stomach it because I get pretty motion sick with it. But it is absolutely amazing. It's absolutely groundbreaking. And for me, it puts it right up there. If you're looking for simulating racing, there's often a big conversation whether Gran Turismo's a sim or a simcade, and you know it's not as good as these other games that are more hardcore. VR changes the absolute game, especially when it looks this good. So those are the 5 good things that I think that have happened in the first year of Gran Turismo. That they got the game out. When the game arrived, it looked and handled fantastically. Dynamic weather and day-night transition, when they use it, is great. Free updates and VR. Now, moving on to the bad. So the things that I don't think have gone particularly well since Gran Turismo 7 launched. And these are, as I say, heavily sport mode biased because I play sport mode, as you know, pretty much 99% of the time. First up, quality control. And what I mean by that is there's always bugs with the update. We've had one recently as well with the pit lane issue. We've got options where people can cheat, like wall riding and curb railing or whatever they're called, the 2-player also has still not been fixed. So the quality control for me could be much, much better. Point number 2, 16 car lobbies. In this day and age, even in Gran Turismo Sport, we had 20. I think it was in 24 sometimes, the top 24. Oh, no, maybe it was top 16. Either way, 16 car lobbies, Polyphony Digital, is not enough. In 2022 or 2023, I'd want probably up to 30, I'd say is a good number, because on other platforms you get to a point where you have too many cars on track. I think 30 is a good number, but either way, we should have more than what we've got at the moment, which is 16. It's pretty poor. And the next point, point number 3, of those 16 cars that you find on track, most of them are, what's the best word for this? Ancient. Now, when you get the new Nissan GTR being the 2018 model, that for me is a problem. And I know there's issues with sort of licensing and it costs money and all that sort of stuff, but the franchise Gran Turismo over the last 25 years has sold 90 million copies. 90 million copies. So I think we can put a little bit aside to make sure we have up-to-date cars. When, for example, the new Ferrari comes out, the GT3, we are going to be still on the not even the 488, we're on the 453. Then there was the 488. Now that's finished. They're going to go to the 293, I think it's called, or the 390. Either way, it's 3 numbers which are further down the line than what we've got. So for me, the content needs an absolute refresh. Point number 4, the daily races themselves. We're still dealing with 3 daily races. And I'll be honest, the quality of them is often pretty poor. Every Friday when we find out what the new races are for the following week, we're often left disappointed. I just think the quality of them is poor and unimaginative, and they're often repeated. We often get the same car, the same track combination. And another thing that I don't think is great is that you can use different cars for the time trial and the race. That's a problem, because the bop is so bad, which we kind of can bring into point number 3 above about the cars. The bop is so bad that everyone just flocks to one car, and everyone just becomes a term that I've now been introduced to, a bop tourist. So the best car for the best track, and you can't blame anyone, because if they're so out of kilter and there is clearly a best car and you're not going to be competitive unless you use said best car, that is a problem and something bad that needs to change. So that is point number 4. And final point, this really grinds my gears. This could have ended up in the ugly category. It's the wait time in between races. Sometimes the wait time can be longer than the race itself. So for example, daily race B, really short race. Sometimes the races can be 8.5 minutes long, and then you've got to wait 11.5 minutes for the next race. I think that's a bit excessive for my personal taste. So that's the good and the bad. Let's move on to the juicy stuff, the ugly. And let me know, of course, whether you agree with what I'm saying or if I've missed anything out as you watch this. The first of 5 points with the ugliness in the last year of Gran Turismo, it's the roulette. Now, it's not just the roulette in itself. The fact that it's skewed to the negative or the worst result every single time is pretty shady for me. Now, yes, we laugh when we get 5,000 credits for a big a big 5-star ticket, or you get some parts you'll never use when you get the 6-star or an engine swap or something. When you combine that with the second point, which is they tried to heavily push microtransactions, you now see where it all fit together. So you had the roulette, which didn't really give you much money. You had the circuit experience, or the race participation, which didn't give you much money. And then you had the heavily inflated car prices. So unless you wanted to grind and grind and grind, you had to, and were heavily promoted towards, using microtransactions, which I think is not good, and definitely number 2, and a worthy place on our ugly category. Speaking of ugly, point number 3, communication from Polyphony Digital. The only time we've really heard from Polyphony Digital themselves is when they wanted to address the microtransaction things. Other than that, I think the communication is really poor, especially when the community is crying out for things to be fixed. Things that, they should have fixed, like the lobbies, for example. That has ground leagues to a halt. People just having fun with their friends to a halt. The 2-player, it's rubbish. You can't play it at home. So all these things should have some clarity, and I don't think Polyphony Digital do well enough in that regard. Almost to the point where I don't want to say they're doing it on purpose, but yeah, it makes you think, do they care? Do they care? Now they've got our money, do they care? I'm sure they do, but it makes you think they might just not. Now, penultimate thing in my ugly category is not using the dynamic weather and the day-night transition. Now, that might think you might think, Rory, that's a bit much. That's a bit much. It's not a bit much for me when we were directly sold the game on this. We all know the PlayStation event, when we saw the rain, we saw all the grip meters, we saw the stars, and they were telling us about the stars. That never arrived, did it? Apart from in the odd Gran Turismo World Series event or anything like that, or the one time that they did it at Le Mans, but we haven't seen it since. And going back to the point above, there's no communication on why not. All it was, this looks nice, buy it because you're going to get all this, and we never got it. For me, that's mis-selling, and that is an ugly, ugly thing. Now, for the final one, this is quite a controversial one, and something that is very personal to me. And it's no qualification for daily races. Now, people would probably think that's not a big thing, Rory, but when you combine that with something I put in the bad category, which is the wait time after races, for me, you don't need any qualification in daily race A. That's no DR and SR affected as always. You just jump in, you crack on, you do what you want. Daily race B, however, we could have something like a Super Pole. One opportunity to go. Just like we kind of do in the Gran Turismo World Series, for example. A short enough quali to fill that gap, and then people can just go into event after event after event. And I think it should certainly be there for Daily Race C, because with the current time trial model, what happens is everybody gets to their optimum time. And I've said this before in videos. They go as quick as they can, and then that's it. When you get the rolling starts that are a million miles away from each other, it just becomes a procession. Unless someone makes a mistake or somebody goes berserk and does a move out of desperation that they probably shouldn't. And you can't really blame them for that, to be honest, because it's, there's no kind of magic with dailies. If X driver is in the lobby, they're going to be top, or they're going to start from the back and they're going to set no time. And I just think that brings for me, a racing event consists of practice, quali, and then a race. And they don't have it. I can forego the practice. I can do that offline in my own time, or away from the session. That's fine. But for me, it's really, really ugly that we do not have qualification for daily races. And that is it. They are my 5 good things, my 5 bad things, and my 5 ugly things that I think have been that I think about Gran Turismo in the first year since it's been around. But I want you to let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have I missed stuff? Do you agree? Do you disagree? But overall, I must say, it's got so much potential. I almost said it's an amazing game. It is an amazing game when they choose to use everything they sold us on. And I wish for Gran Turismo's second year, it builds on those flourishes of brilliance that we see sometimes in the Gran Turismo World Series. Sometimes we get treated to in a Gran Turismo World Series event. I wish it was more regular and commonplace. That's what I would say. A mixed start over the first year of Gran Turismo 7, but I'm glad it's here and I'm hoping for more in its second year. As I say, guys, let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Let's have a good discussion about it. If you did like the video, please do remember to leave a like on the video, and also please remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new around here or if you haven't already.